What's up, everybody? It is Jack here. I'm with Ed Brady. And Ed, I'd love for you to just introduce yourself to anybody who's listening and watching who might already know you or maybe not know you at all.
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks for having me. A beautiful building, and I've watched your content over the last year, and this search project has brought us together, which is beautiful, and I'm gracious to be sitting here with you having a conversation to humanize who we both are. And I guess self-identify as a community leader, as a social entrepreneur, and as a producer. That's professionally. More proudly, I'm a father of a 3.5-year-old son named Maverick. I'm a proud husband to a beautiful wife named Taylor, son to a dad named Ed, and son to a mother named Diane. Grandparents, lineage, incredible. Family is my foundation. Faith in God is a man that I've evolved into. Those two kind of drive all my creations and things that I'm trying to provide impact in pursuit. Former councilman in the city of Cranston, served in government, produced some movies, associate produced some movies, helped bring movies here, saved my community theater and bought a 100-year-old asset in my town for the pure purpose of protecting it for arts and music and dance and comedy, and that's the Park Theater. Also, I'm co-creator of a brand called The Thirsty Beaver, investor in many unique different startups, but mostly just a guy like everybody else trying to get through his day-to-day, putting food on the table and living a day of impact and joy.
That's amazing. You're a hockey player.
I was at one point. I would like to say that I could still skate.
What is the story there?
Oh, cool, man. I remember going on the ice, 4 years old, getting the equipment with Dad and being bigger than me. And, making the all-star team at 6, the Rhode Island Saints, had a profound impact on my life. And eventually, I got cut from the middle school team and really worked hard in middle school. And I was one of the only players to make varsity as a freshman. And, I had a really high school career, and it led to trying to walk on at UConn my first semester, and it didn't align, and I transferred to Bryant and played there for all 4 years. And fortunately, under ACHA, which is only club, by senior year, I made All-American and met lifelong friends, made lifelong lessons, and, I still enjoy watching the game. And recently got to bring my son out for the first time, bringing me back to that moment of time when I was 4 myself, brought me to tears. And I know you're a hockey guy, too. You meet, bond in lifelong friendships from that sport, right? I mean,
I'm curious, how you would communicate what makes hockey and hockey players so unique. What are those?
Oh man, absolutely. You got to have thick skin in hockey, right? We're a lot of chirping. We chirp each other. We chirp our teammates. We chirp the other team. But what I love most about hockey is we can do that and ball bust, so to speak. And I don't quite ball bust as much later on in my journey. But then someone hits our teammate, and man, do we go to war for them?
Right.
And same thing in life. I think you want kind of hockey player friends where you can keep it light and keep it fun. But if someone comes at you, man, the whole team's got your back. And I think that's the beauty of the sport and what I learned. Certainly got scars and lost tooth and, throughout the body. But, finding a way to dig out of the corner, get that puck out and get it to your teammate and keep the puck moving, I think is kind of a lesson I've taken in life.
Yeah. And it brought you through Bryant, right? So what was the Bryant experience like for you?
Yeah, you're a 3B guy yourself, right? Bryant, Bentley, Babson.
Yes, sir.
And I remember learning those were the business schools that were the smartest of the region, and if you could get in, what a blessing it would be. And I didn't think Bryant was in my cards. Certainly didn't come from a family of wealth that I could afford a school of that kind of luxury. Hockey got me in, and I got a Bulldog Award, and I certainly had some assistance from my parents and learned exponentially. Bryant changed my life. You learn about business and communication and sociology and filmmaking and everything in between, and you have 4 years to learn about all these different cultures of people that are uniquely from all over the world, right? And a melting pot right here in 2 exits away from your hometown. Bryant changed my life, and I'm so gracious and thankful for the educators, the friends, the alumni network I still engage with, going back to the university and speaking at CEO and a lot of their entrepreneurial programs. I like going back and giving wisdom to what I've learned through the journey, and additionally, I've went back and gotten wisdom and still have mentors that are teaching at Bryant today, and that's been the beauty of that education, which led me out from there to Hollywood.
Yeah, so you spent some focus on filmmaking. What inspired that route for you, and then what did that route look like?
Great question. And you're an early musician, right? You picked that up, and there's nothing like when you're learning to play and going through the craft. Similarly, I was in early middle school productions of plays and played the lead and actor at the Inner Child for sure. I liked attention. I think when I was bullied in middle school for not having the nicest kicks or nicest clothes or whatever it may be, comedy and diverting energy off of myself was a tool I used to realize that impact mattered. To that whole core point, I think that's what inspired the early artists that led to Hollywood. But Bryant, junior year, I learned filmmaking, and I was studying classes there in filmmaking and built up the confidence to start writing some short scripts. And me and my friends would, take out the camera and the flip camera at the time and create little fun characters for ourselves. And that led out to LA after a Bryant business degree with the goal of producing film and acting. And 2 years I spent out there. I was an extra on sets, worked red carpets, but essentially like anything else, it wasn't Rhode Island. I didn't know everybody to LA. I had to find a way to infiltrate unique networks. I learned a lot of celebrities didn't go out on the weekends. They went out on Mondays and Tuesdays. And I learned who the hottest DJs were in the area. And I befriended those DJs and found ways to provide value to those DJs, which I later on in the journey end up bringing to Rhode Island to perform here. But those DJs would allow me to meet celebrities. And through doing that, I find myself on film sets and I'm learning exactly where I wanted to be. Eventually ran out of money in Hollywood for one of the many times of my journey. Moved home, was living with mom and dad again, sulking my wounds, took a copy sales job that I horrifically hated, but we all got to do what we got to do to put money on the table. But as a social entrepreneur, I'm pretty proud that was one of the only jobs I ever took. Not to say that I haven't done anything to keep the dream alive, but from there I was back home and I started my first production company in 2008 called 401, which was a magazine event production company. I was taking pictures everywhere for free, and I was really utilizing MySpace and Facebook when it was just coming out, where my logo was everywhere, 401, to really make a name for myself in this market, and then leveraging the celebrities that I met in LA, like Steve Aoki or DJ AM, God rest his soul, or Bam Margera or Holly Madison or Nick Cannon. We really started bringing all those celebrities to Rhode Island, and we hit the market by storm coming out of a mortgage crisis in '08. It was a tough economy, just like it is today. I realized that I was pretty good at making people feel good in interpersonal areas of community, specifically high-level energy nightlife, and I could curate, I'd have to pay the security, I'd pay the DJs, right, and then find a way to make a profit within all that. And there was an early mentor of mine named Steve Mara, who, God rest his soul, has passed, but he really was the guy that I could go to with any question, and that team that he built around him that built a foundation of my then later success in the hospitality world, which, I went on to doing some other stuff too, but that was LA, Rhode Island, and then Thirsty Beaver and such, right? So
when you were back in Rhode Island and you were working the paper copy
Copy
job,
sales,
the
yeah,
copy
yeah.
center job.
Yeah.
What would be your advice based on that experience that you had for anybody who might be in a similar experience?
Great question. I can go back to that moment and recall probably heavy drinking. I don't really drink much at all. I might, at this point in my journey, have celebratory glass of wine or champagne or occasional beer. I know depression is real. I know anxiety is real. I know stress is real. I know pressure is real. And I can go back to that moment of time and kind of feel like I gave up on myself and I was depressed and I took a job that I didn't believe in really, but I had to do it. I was broke. So you got to put food on the table. I wasn't above it. I'm not above any job I've ever taken in my ecosystems or even in my own creative ventures. I'll wash dishes with the next guy. I'll pick up the plates with the next guy. Never act like I'm above any particular job. But to that point, what advice I would give someone to get out of depression or get out of a feeling that they feel like is not a feeling they want to be in, you got to keep doing the self-work. It's not going to happen overnight. I kept investing portions of my day, even though I was doing the job and I was working the 9 to 5, from 5 to X, I was working on creative visions that God was giving me to put strategy in action to get back to that company or back to that creation. And was able to foster off the first camera, right, which I needed, and was able to leverage a friend to build the first website and leverage my network. Then I was feeling aligned again, and I eventually got to a point where I could quit that copy sales job and go all in back on my dreams. I think dreams, you have to be all in. There's so much darkness in them that, of course, we're going to get diverted at certain points of the journey, but get back on track. So making sure you're investing a portion of your day, even though you're in the job, on your dreams, I think is critically important to getting back aligned to where you want to go.
Yeah, I completely agree. You said that you spent some time like working on yourself. I think about habits. I mean, do you have any advice about habits that you recommend for people who might be listening?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're 28, which is such a beautiful age. I remember that's when I opened my first supper club here in Rhode Island called Vanity, which came after my nightclub promoting days. And I got an investor, and I had to, put together a business deck and took out second mortgages on parents' homes. I realized the importance of, if we're leveraging family money, then you got to be all in on your dreams. What type of habits do you have to make sure are part of your foundation, so that when times get dark, you're not giving up not only on yourself, but everyone that believes in you, right? There's so many. Not being afraid to tackle mental discussions of mental health with other men of success who've navigated through similar struggles or tribulations or trials through the journey, being vulnerable in those conversations, not being afraid to ask for help. Work not only on your mind, but also obviously your body and your soul. When I say soul, I'm certainly more ingrained in faith at 41 than I was at 28. I don't care what religion anybody practices, but try to find something purposeful that you believe in. And if it's not faith, find something that brings you purpose, and keep finding a way to be in aligned energy with other like-minded people who feel the same way. If you have to make tough breakups with friends that aren't aligned, doing the right path and doing the right things that are part of your habits that you're trying to maintain, you got to do that. You got to let go, and I guess those are some of the habits that I would recommend specifically to anybody. But additionally, I use my time with direct intention, specifically at 41, more specifically than 28 or 21 or 16, because I think the older you get and the more you evolve and grow and realize the preciousness of time, you don't want to waste it. I think that's at every level of the journey, but more so as you age. And those are habits that, especially having ADHD, block scheduling my days, not allowing disruptions, not finding ways in current climate of the world where we know we have access to technology like never before. We don't know what to trust. But yet we can learn anything we want on AI and ChatGPT at our fingertips. But don't get lost in that, right? Schedule your time weekly with intention. Schedule your habits, including even if it's fun, brother, right? If you have to write a half hour of give me a break between all these creations and read a book or meditate or prayer or silence is okay. We're in such a stimulation society currently. And again, I'm a creator. I think part of depression is when you're not creating, when you're consuming, when you're constantly consuming. So part of my habits are always finding a way in my block scheduling weekly to constantly be finding that balance within creation. Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been listening to a lot of alpha waves instead of podcasts or instead of watching like YouTube. In my drive, I'll put on alpha waves. Hey Siri, play some alpha waves on Spotify. Just because I need the break from the constant stimuli. I mean, it can be overwhelming, and I think your attention is so valuable. And there are some things that I was giving attention to that are just not the return on investment of my attention doesn't justify the attention I was giving it.
Somehow that in a beautiful way brought me to, I was by the bedside of a stage 4 cancer friend who I've lost named Dan. And Dan was a sound engineer at the Park Theater. And when I ran out of money and I was doing everything possible to find solutions and my mind was everywhere and I couldn't stop thinking, Dan just kept showing up and mixing music and finding a way to make me slow down and smell the roses, right? Like sometimes if your mind's in constant flow, you don't see the solutions, right? You need the frequency of wave, you need the meditation, you need the prayer. And I think even what he helped remind me through his love of music is there's so many messages in songs, there's so many messages in podcasts. We have to quantify and decide what we want to listen to and receive and then apply in our day-to-day fixings of, does anyone really have the answer? We're all just here
Right.
at one
First
spin on the
try,
earth.
yeah.
Given the best shot we got. And
Yeah.
if you believe in life after, then, I hope that all the lessons I'm taking from this planet and journey apply to a greater good up top. I don't have all the answers, but I certainly want to teach what I learned through my failures. And I also want to keep receiving and learning every day, because I can learn from a 28-year-old, or I could learn from Dan, who's by his, lasting moments. And to wrap back into that story, slowing down and smelling the roses was important to Dan, but all he also wanted in that moment of time was his family present, was his family in the moment, in discussion with him. And brings me back to my child, my 3-year-old. It's like, to your core point, we can be diverted by stimuli, we can be brought out in all these worlds. All my son wants is my attention, right? All my son wants is me to play with him. And even playing with him makes me realize that I should play more. Adults should play more. Why do we stop playing, right? All this stress, all this pressure. We think we want to buy all these things. We think we need all these things to be happy. No. We need each other's time. We need to enjoy good food. We need shelter. We need laughter. We need fun. We need music. We need dancing. I don't quantify my personal success, because these are all metrics we give ourselves on. Are we successful? Are we not?
Right.
I don't give the critics really much attention anymore, and I also don't give the praise too much attention.
Right.
I try to just stay level set within the daily evolution of my own self-work, knowing I still have a lot of self-work to do, but I also have a lot to give from what I've learned through all the consistent habits that I've applied through the journey.
Yeah, you talk about the importance of play and music and being amongst other people. I feel like that is part of your life work, of bringing people together, of creating spaces where people can come together, whether that's the Thirsty Beaver or Park Theater, like the Search. All of these things, I think that you're really living what you just said and making them into a reality. You just mentioned that you had opened Vanity, a supper club. I've never heard the term supper club. So that was the first go at creating a space. And it's taken you far along your journey creating spaces and creating communities. So
for sure.
Talk about what that has been like and what your journey is and what you've learned and iterated and improved upon.
Yeah, amen. Vanity Supper Club. So let's start with the name. I think that at that point, we were at a different point of the climate of the world. Drinking was cool, or people were popping bottles, and you had to make it a show. Right, it was more than just the experience. I was one of the first. I believe I was the first in this market to make it a show, like Vegas was doing in larger markets like Boston and Vegas, and anywhere you travel, Miami. Right. So we brought that experience to Vanity Supper Club, so you could enjoy. It wasn't top 10 Michelin star restaurant experience, but it was good food. We had a great chef, so there was certainly a supper part of it, but the club after dinner experience was alive. And it was a beautiful creation. I think we spent essentially $160,000 to get that one open, and there were certainly second mortgages of parents home involved. God bless my original investing partner, Jeff Quinlan, who I met on a caddy bench at 13. And he went into real estate and legal and flipping properties and all sorts of different worlds. Yet our worlds then later collided for this supper club creation, which then later led to Thirsty Beaver and the Park Theater. So my lessons from that journey and new partnerships, right? You want to take on adventures. I leaned into my strengths. I'm certainly a people person. I enjoy people. I enjoy vulnerably having discussions to understand people, this sociology of people, not for the intention to maliciously use that against them, to do it for greater good, to help them further towards their dreams or whatever they're trying to accomplish. And that's true. I've lived it through action, not only from Vanity Supper Club, but every creation thereafter. And that consistent work over time has led people to understand that it's not a show, it's not bullshit, but early lessons from Vanity Supper Club. Rich Bakari and Rich's dad were really well-known men in Churchill Banks here, and they're still, God rest his soul, his father's passed, but Rich Jr. is still very well known with Churchill Banks. We had to go in and virtually unknown investors in that space. I was a vibrant nightclub promoter, anything really to leverage if the business failed. We had to make them believe. And we did. We got in a room with these two men, gave us an opportunity, and I was able to pay back that initial debt of the $160,000 with the return in a very rapid amount of time, roughly a year. There was certainly sacrifices within that. I had to take massive pay cut from where I once was to then making my own creations, and I'm invested in taking on the risk with a partner, and but now I'm building equity within brands, which then led to me and that same partner and a best friend from youth opening up our first Thirsty Beaver location a year later, because there was a huge shift in the market where it was less about bottle service. Rhode Island actually made it illegal to serve bottles because, won't go into that. That could take me an hour in itself on why. So we had to shift our entire model, and we went more of a pub-faced grub, because that was also where the trends were going, and we knew that from emerging neighboring markets, and we were quick on that, and we established this fun community-based log cabin bar brand that at the core of it, I want to bring my 3-year-old to, I want my grandparents to come to, and we want all walks of life walking into there, enjoying a pretty good dining experience at an affordable rate where everyone feels like they're in a safe space and they can just kind of release the everything else going on in the world and come in together and feel comfortable and safe and enjoy life. And it's homegrown, and we've emulated that same style of creation in the markets that we've later went to. And that brand now has locations in Smithfield, Rhode Island, and also in North Kingston, Rhode Island. So in addition to that, if I didn't create those brands, I wasn't able to leverage those brands for greater creations like multi-million-dollar buildings in my hometown that I never thought I would be the one stepping up to save that thing, but no one else unfortunately was. It was going to become 75 apartments.
About it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
So what happened?
What happened with the Park Theater?
Yeah.
So 2021, I'm serving as the vice president of the City Council of Cranston. And had no intentions of leaving. I almost become the next lieutenant governor. I'm in consideration with a bunch of people, really, really cool people that I've got to know further in the journey. That doesn't work out. I think the governor picks the right person, Sabina. And, this opportunity came forth, and I go to the ethics commission, and I say, I hear that this building, the only person that's trying to buy it out of auction is trying to convert it into 75 apartments. Smart business play. I can't knock that. Cash flowed, makes sense. But it as my inner artist, it drove insane, Jack. I gave it about, I can't even say a day. I asked my wife if she would be cool if I sought an ethics opinion, which I did. And, at this point, we didn't have the money. But, I said, is there a path where I could try to pursue the Park Theater? The Ethics Commission ruled that the only way I could do that was if I resigned from council. So it wasn't a no. The easy thing would have taken that as a no, but I resigned from council, and I think that was August of that year, and somehow by the grace of God was able to get to a deal by December, and we were able to go to family and friends and Connected Network to raise enough capital to get the building doors back open. And 4 months in that project, we got the doors back open, which was a miracle in itself. And we created this incredible sold-out show for Jim Brewer, and the community was behind us. We were still at some interesting times, though, in climate of the world. People weren't just kind of going back out. We're in stride and feeling good about where we're at, and this massive flood happens that essentially brought me back to prayer and my knees, and massive damage in the building, roof damage, water getting in everywhere. The city of Cranston shuts us down, tells us we can't reopen. We have to reroute all of our shows. And that was a defining moment for me, because it would have been easier to quit. And we didn't. We were able to find a way to get the doors back open within a month, get those repairs made, even though insurance, what about insurance? Well, no, insurance doesn't cover anywhere near what you wish it did. So got the doors back open, and I never, big picture, was seeing my vision of me running that forever, right? Most of our creations we run for 3 or 4 years, set the foundation, and then you hope that the teams that you build can run it thereafter. So the goal was always to lure regional management company or management operator to run the building, and then just protect it historically and, eventually raise money for the historical protection and make improvements over time. Was able to get the doors back open. We did 40 shows, 38 were profitable, and I was running low on cash flow. And went to the governor, and I was fortunate enough to have established a friendship with him through my leadership. And even though we were from opposite sides of the aisle, and I stand here now as a true independent, not a Republican, I'm not a Democrat, I'm an independent, gave me some time, and there were no answers that day. But I later went to another event, and he almost had like a eureka moment where he said, as I'm at this event, within the next week, I take it as God, divine alignment. He said, some towns are pursuing community grants from the federal government to build community centers, and, there's $6 million essentially available for each and every city throughout the state of the Rhode Island for those that want to opt in. Well, for me, that was the answer. A $6 million federal grant to build a community center. I had a 98-year-old asset. I went all in. I went back to the city. I asked them if I could put together a plan. We did assessments on the building. We worked with a neighboring nonprofit called CCAP. We were ready to present towards this grant opportunity. Again, though, for the city to buy an asset, I had to then go speak to my former council to get them to agree to buy the asset to get the grant. And essentially, I wasn't trying to profit a single dollar off of this grant. I was trying to sell the note for whatever I owed on it. So essentially, as you know, as a businessman, any money that I had already previously invested to get the building was gone. And I didn't even care. It wasn't like I was running away from the project. My entire goal and mission in buying this theater was to save it for a long-term sustainability plan where it no longer became 75 apartments, where it stayed as a theater, as a hub of community for music, dance, and art. So I give this passion to you right now, even going back into the moment, because man, what happened from there, and I've never said this live on a podcast, and I think you're going to get it from me for the first time. Man, it got so dark. There was a council president serving at the time who wouldn't even get on the phone with me to listen to the vision. And ironically, later on in the story, she has to resign from council from being caught in an extramarital affair with the council attorney who had to resign too. The interesting thing is, for those that don't know much about politics, in order to get the city of Cranston to buy the asset at that time, I needed the council to approve it. So there was a 6-3 Democratic majority to 3 Republicans, 6 Democrats, 3 Republicans. There was a Republican-based mayor and Cranston's been a Republican-based mayor for now 20 years. Mm-hmm. But this was the first time in many years where the Democrats locally on the city council had the majority. So in order for this initiative to go forward, I had to convince 5 of the people, 5-4, agree with the plan. So I met with all the council people. I gave my most passionate pitch. I presented in front of the city council. And I got the votes. I had the votes. I had 5 votes. And I had 2 people from the other side of the aisle that were ready to do this, man, save a theater. It wasn't about Ed Brady. It's never been about profits. I certainly know the amount of money that gets reinvested into the theaters here in Providence and how much we support it in public-private partnerships. Last year alone, we gave the Rhode Island Convention Center Authority $25 million because there's so many benefits of economic development for theaters, for being basically the anchor of the entire community, for driving tax dollars to restaurants, and even the human element of teaching educational theater programs. Theaters can't die, at the core of everything I'm expressing right now. But again, Ed Brady only has so many dollars, right? And so, man, what happened from there was wild, and I'm going to go back to it. The councilwoman was ready to stand up for her ward, and she got blackmailed out of government, and she had to resign, and basically a state police investigation her party put against her forced her to resign, and it never saw the light of the day for a vote. So I went into a dark depression. Cranston never took that money. And just a note for anyone that's watching today, 85% of the state of Rhode Island did take that free federal aid, because you don't not take federal aid. But we're at such dark times in society where people don't even want to hear ideas or get back at a table or have conversations or listen to understand. They just want to vote D or R.
Right.
And for me, the city of Cranston lost that day, that entire experience. We're never going to get back that $8 million, or at the time it was $6 million, but every city that opted out, only 15% of the state opted out. The money got pushed more to the cities that wanted it because those dollars were supposed to be invested in after-school education, mental health, and job growth, which we need now more than ever. Yeah. So, I can't go back, though. I can't go back to that. Right. I did. I had that moment of anger, resentment, so many feelings. Therapy, self-work, talking to smarter people than me, God, all of those things allowed me to keep fighting, to not give up, to convince our note holder, our bank, a nice man named Pai Patel, to keep believing, because I didn't want to do all of that work just to see it become the profitable play of 75 apartments. Not to say we don't need housing. God knows we need affordable housing in the world today. But again, we need theater. So and we went way further in depth than I anticipated today, but I'm in a sharing mood in your energy. So we didn't get the votes, didn't get the grant, convinced a very generous man named Pai Patel, the guy who invested nearly $10 million before us in that theater, to give me a little bit more time and I would get to a deal with a management company. I was pursuing 2 different operators in that deal, and I had a specific timeline that I had to execute it in. And by the grace of God, at the final hour, I remember shaking Spectacle Live's hand and shaking our note holder's hand, and we came to an agreement for a long-term lease to reopen those doors. And I can say, by the blessings of God and God alone, and the building's now been reopened, Jack, for a year and a half, and they've produced over 75 beautiful shows, and the management company is doing an incredible job. Not to say that the public in the community doesn't have to continue to find ways to support arts. Ticket buyers is supporting arts. There's building upgrades that needed HVAC, roof, you name it. But as God is my witness, I will not give up ever and see that building get converted into something else other than a community gathering space that inspires.
Yeah, absolutely. So
that was a long one.
Oh my gosh, it's fascinating. The intersection of business and government and equity and capital and negotiations, it's insane. It sounds like, while there's so much value in the theater, we need the community to maybe appreciate that value and come buy the tickets and come and support, right? Is that how important is it?
Sure. I think there's a common misconception that, if it's a for-profit business, then if it's not a nonprofit, then it's not good work, right? Like, first of all, probably through your journey already, like nonprofits, and we have one in Cranston, all we do is continue to go out and get presents for children in need, that are most in need, specifically in Cranston, year after year. We feed our impoverished community year after year, homeless dinners, summer barbecues, but there's no federal grants or grants coming in early startup nonprofits right off the rip. It takes years to get those types of grants. So again, to start a theater or to go after getting a theater, you need to be for profit, because you need to take in investment from friends and family in order to get to that nonprofit status where you're eventually making a building restoration fund or working with a subsidiary nonprofit. So all of these are lessons that I've learned through, again, if I'm going in on something, I'm all in. I've been all in on this theater for the last 3 to 4 years to learn as much as I could quantifiably possibly learn for the core mission of not profits, just sustainability, right? Just finding the path towards, and yes, a huge component of that is ticket buying. A huge component of that is whatever city you're investing in. A lot of cities throughout the globe, it's not about the $110,000 that you're getting currently, which is what they're getting for taxes from the theater. There's tax treaties, there's tax agreements. Theaters pay less, right? Justifiably so. And we haven't bridged that conversation yet with the city, because I think you've seen from the one story that I told you what a political divide we've been at and in turmoil coming out of COVID and in the current climate of the world. But I do sit here on this podcast hopeful that conversation's coming, because there are new dynamics, and I do see people that are coming on to the city council and in government and leadership currently in Cranston that care and can put political party aside and actually listen to the issues to find a path towards sustainability. This is not a profit play in Cranston. This is a protection play. I want to keep learning with my community leaders, keep talking. Yeah. I think the community is buying tickets. I think they are supporting. If they ever stop buying tickets, it will die, no matter how passionate I am. But for the most part, People are going to the shows. We got to do more shows. That'll come in time.
Yeah.
Like I said, Spectacle is an incredible operator. They have 12 other regional operations. It's a blessing from God. We were able to lure someone like that to our community. Additionally, our small business community continues to step up and support and provide opportunities for growth there. But it'd be nice to get, you see other theaters in other cities and other towns, and even right here in Providence. You know, you got to convince a bank or a community player that makes profits to want to invest on naming right opportunities for city buildings like that. And maybe it's not always the Park Theater. Maybe it's blah, blah, blah center at the park, right?
Right.
And that's something that's something we're working on. But I think the core answer to you is that theater is not going anywhere. Pai Patel is invested in the vision. A lot of people are invested in the vision, and we're going to keep doing the work to make sure that tickets are being bought, great shows are coming in, the building keeps over time evolving and upgrading. We have to compete with other cities and towns making tax deals. We have to compete with other cities and towns actually investing, you know, tens of millions of dollars in arts and in theater. And there has to be an understanding amongst our city and town that if we want to keep arts alive, well, they have to make some type of investment forward. I'm not to say that the mayor wasn't trying with the work of the governor to make this executable grant happen, which I truly believe, again, was pure intentioned, and there was no bias or favoritism. This was all, you know, earned opportunity. And so to the core of all that, it's God's plan, man. I'm going to give it my all day in and day out, and I know the team there is too, and I'm excited because after all that heaviness, we're bringing back a creation that we're both collaboratively involved in on the main stage on March 14th. And to think that that creation started just me and a friend and other friends that believe, going out with the cell phone to tape a first audition, to now find 45 incredible storylines throughout New England and be aligned with you for the first time and meet some incredible friends through the journey who we've also recently lost, only inspires me more to get this one to the finish line at a magnitude of creation that inspires.
Yeah, it's the search, and it is bringing the creative community together in Rhode Island and in New England, and I'm curious how the idea came about.
Amen, brother. The search is, you know, I read in the Bible. I'm trying to read a page in the Bible every day, or a passage or whatever it may be. But the search I've had for a little while. It's like been in the back pocket. God was like, when are you going to act on this? And finally, there was a point where I moved on it, where I didn't have all the answers. I certainly didn't have all the money, but the message in the Bible that I kept receiving, and I even went to my pastor for guidance on, was use what you have. And, you know, we often get in this, well, we need this to do that. We need this to do that. We need this to do that. Well, I've always found a way grittily to make creations happen from pure belief and my ability to connect others to believe in an aligned mission where I can find a way creatively to make it mutually beneficial for everybody involved. And I think that's what the search is, right? So when I was pitching it to early friends, Johnny Gates, who was on The Voice, and Kara McKee and Chachi Carvalho and some of the mentors on the show, I was aligned in frequencies of energy of people that said, yes, let's do this, right? Not people that gave me all the no's or all the reasons why it couldn't happen, which I think is crucially important. So those early yeses led to motivation to go see if we could find some artists at open mics. And then we went to the open mics and we were wowed time after time. And what had started as a vision of doing a social storytelling campaign purely on social media that was free to everybody, that didn't have celebrities running it, and no, it was homegrown. It was right here in Rhode Island, and it was finding New England storylines that mattered right here at home, that were emerging artists that we could find a way through storytelling to uplift and grow. And it's blossomed into this incredible, beautiful creation where I'm having conversations with Charles Porch, who's the creator of the Instagram story, and he's the 12th person in as far as I know at Instagram. And he's given me beautiful words back of how it blossoms of community, how it blossoms of diversity, how it's just, you meet some of these storylines as you have, Jack, and it's a nurse that's exhausted and, takes off the scrubs and, blows us away on stage. And now I'm even watching some collaborative relationships that have happened that are blossoming into other collaborations outside of the search. And, I'm not a guy that's all I want.
Yeah.
All I want to do is show love locally at home, at a town that I bleed for, in a state I bleed for. And I'm utterly inspired every day to wake up and go to the board and work with the team, which is, again, not just about the artists on stage, but it's about the creatives, right? But also doing the work off the stage. It's about the cinematographers, the boom mic, the small businesses supporting the catering. Yeah. This is all people doing it for their time because they believe.
Right.
So when you have that many people believing, not only 45 artists, but 45 plus people behind the camera, and we're all finding a way to keep putting out these clips at the magnitude of production value that we are. I mean, we're in a movement like never before. It's a social media competition showcase that's never been done, and we're in it right here talking to real players about what comes from this. I don't know. I want to stay in it. I want to stay in the moment. And right now we're in going into the grand finale. So it's all homegrown here. And I say this boldly on this podcast, and I'm going to keep screaming it at the top of my lungs from what I've discovered. I've traveled the world. Rhode Island is the most creative state in America, period. We might be the smallest. We know the problems. We all talk about the problems. Don't debate me on what I've seen happen just in the search, on the creative community that we have. And we're aligned on this one. I can't do this on my own. It's all of us. It's our creation. I had a thought. I had a vision. I had a cell phone, but it wouldn't be what it is if it wasn't for, please, I invite anyone who doesn't know about it yet, thesearchri.com. Go check it out. You're not only going to learn about those 45 artists, but you're going to learn about you. You're going to learn about me. You're going to learn about every single person involved in that creation.
Yeah, it's amazing. And the finals are coming up.
March 14th, baby. Back at the historic Park Theater in Cranston, Rhode Island.
You guys heard it. It's big news.
Amen,
It's going to be very fun. I can't wait for it. And, I want to thank you for all of the work that you did in putting it together, because every moment that I had with the search so far has been honestly magical.
Thanks, brother.
I think it really stems from the connections. I've made so many meaningful connections from the moments that I spent at the search so far. And I'm sure I will experience even more new friendships at the finals. I really have appreciated it. And so...
Well, that's the beauty of it, right?
Thanks for doing it.
We're all in the moment. We're doing the best we can with the resources we have.
Right.
And the same foundation it started on and I'm hoping that it inspires others to realize if you don't have the money, if you don't have the answers, keep going. Find a way to work with others in a creatively collaborative form of creation. We all, again, consume too much. We have to create, and we're in a beautiful creation collaboratively together right now. So thank you for those words.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed Brady, for coming on. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. Ed, do you want to let them know how they can connect with you or find you or support you, whatever?
Of course. I'm on Instagram personally, Ed Brady RI, pretty fluid on there. If you want to personally email me and you have a question, Edward Brady RI at gmail.com. Follow the Search RI, follow the Park Theater page. Spectacle Live's doing a great job managing that venue. Thirsty Beaver Pub, restaurant.com, a whole bunch of other fun creations. But most importantly, thanks for tuning in and hearing a little bit about my story and listening today to some of the journey.
Thank you, everybody. I'm Jack Flynn, and I'll see you next time.